Saturday at Red Bull Arena, New York will try and get back to their winning ways after losing last time out. First time at home this year against the Philadelphia Union. And the rare September East-West game. Sporting Kansas City coming in to take on New York. Blake, appreciate you coming on, giving us a couple of minutes. Give me I'll say, State of the Union for Kansas City. Tale of two kind of years, right? Great run in the Open Cup, a game away from winning a trophy. Playoffs in the Western Conference still possible, but time running short.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on here. But you're absolutely right about that. You look at the regular season, just a really rough start, a rough stretch in the middle of the season. I think there was a 10-match winless stretch in there, 7 matches straight that they lost in there. So really it felt like rock bottom at some point during this season. But things have kind of started to turn. It feels like, especially with last year, the way SKC bounced back after the League's Cup break and really just made an incredible run, knocked St. Louis out of the playoffs. It felt like that was kind of the season they might have this year, but put themselves in a deeper hole at this point, going into the League's Cup break. Have been good right before the League's Cup break, since the League's Cup break, and everyone's looking forward to US Open Cup at this point. You've got a chance mathematically to still make the playoffs, but the real focus for SKC is on the US Open Cup. Of course, you talk to Peter Vermees, he's never going to be out of it. He's never going to put himself out of any situation that he's not mathematically removed from. So he's going to give it his all until they are mathematically removed, or, if they somehow slide their way into the playoffs, but really, really focused on the Open Cup.
Tell me a little bit, Blake, about the defense this year, because that's been a major concern. And the number that obviously pops off is 52 goals allowed through 27 games. It's a lot. Maybe a year of transition in some regard for Kansas City, but then you look the last couple of games, shutout against Indy 11 in the Open Cup, shutout against Orlando last time out. So you said things getting a little bit better, but that number 52 jumps out at you.
Yeah, it's just been inconsistency this year from the back line. I mean, I think now we're running on, it'll be 27. I think it's been 27 straight matches where there hasn't been a repeat starting lineup. So 27 different combinations of a starting lineup for the last 27 matches. You're talking about a back line that hasn't played, match after match together with a consistent, strong play. It feels like SKC just can't really find that combination. They don't necessarily have, I think, the guys that they want going forward. There's a lot of guys, in this offseason that their contract is up. They might not be coming back to Sporting Kansas City and haven't necessarily proved that they deserve to be back here in the eyes of some of the, coaching staff and some of the people at the top. But I think that overall they've come together recently to have a little bit more consistency. You've got a leader in the back in Tim Melia. He's been around for so long. He's the kind of guy that leads the back line from his, example, obviously, as a goalkeeper, but also vocally. And he's always trying to be that vocal leader to his back line. Hasn't been able to necessarily do that this year with some other leaders in the back line, not always stepping up to the plate. You've got guys that are maybe losing a step a little bit. Sporting just brought in Joaquin Fernandez, a new center back signing, but he's not going to be ready to go in any time, anytime soon, I should say. So it's just been a lot of inconsistency for SKC, and they're really just trying to figure out what everything looks like going forward to next season.
Weird year too for Johnny Russell, right? I mean, he's been such a mainstay for Kansas City and in Major League Soccer. So dangerous when switched on and in good form, but it hasn't really been the same Johnny Russell this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've seen glimpses. I mean, against Indy 11, he had a great strike that ended up in the back of the net. We've seen glimpses throughout the year where he really just feels like he wants to put the team on his back. And he's got that energy, that fight that you always see from Johnny Russell. He wants this as much as anyone else, but he also isn't the same player that he once was. Johnny Russell getting up there in age. He's also out of contract at the end of this year. We'll see what his future looks like with Sporting Kansas City. I mean, you're talking about the end of this year is proving to be almost a tryout for a lot of these guys to see if they're going to get a new contract, see if Sporting's going to be taking their option for next season for some of these guys. And Johnny Russell is one that doesn't have an option for next year. He's fighting for a new contract. He's someone that's meant a lot to this club and brought Sporting Kansas City so many big moments. Hasn't won a trophy with SKC. He's trying to do that in the Open Cup and, in regular season play, just trying to put this team on his back as much as he can. But it does feel like that age is starting to get to him.
Tell me when a coaching staff maybe is honest or players are talking openly about trying to make a run for the playoffs with not many games remaining. What does Kansas City feel like they need to do? I mean, win obviously is the answer, but out of the games they have remaining, do they say, hey, we need X number of points out of the next 7 games?
I haven't heard any numbers explicitly, but to get back to the same number of points Sporting was on last year, they need 17 points from their last 7. So that's 6 wins, or you go, unbeaten and you draw 2 of those matches. So 5 wins and 2 draws. No matter how you do that, no matter how you shake that up, it's going to be tough. I've heard from the coaching staff, they're focused on winning, obviously trying to win all those matches. But if they can get 6 wins in their 7, that's what they feel like will get them into the playoffs. So it's not, they're not saying that explicitly to everyone, but, in conversation, I've kind of heard like secondhand, this is what we think. This is what we think. Nothing explicit, but I think that 6 out of 7 is the number. And, you've got a couple of tough matchups coming up against New York, and then they've got Seattle next. So it's tough.
Blake, I appreciate you coming on, giving us a couple minutes. Look forward to catching up with you a little bit more during the course of the week. And these teams, obviously, long history in Major League Soccer and a lot on the line for both. Thanks again for giving us a few, and look forward to the match on Saturday.
Me too. Appreciate it.